The problem first manifests that this handle doesn't return to center, and this side you can see it's got spring force because that angle and this angle is controlling one of the two levers, but this angle and this angle controls the other lever. This arm moves freely with nothing to return it. This arm right here has a spring that pushes it back to center. Okay, for this job you're going to need standard Allen key. I believe it was a 3/16, might have been a 5/32. You'll need a 1/4 inch ratchet with 1/2 inch socket, extension, a magnet, a mirror, and all, a pick. You'll need a whole pick set potentially. You need a little flashlight, maybe a big flashlight. You'll need a 1/2 inch ratchet. If you have one, an impact would be great. Otherwise, just the 1/2 inch set would be fine with 5/8, I believe it is. Oh shoot, I always forget these. It's either 5/8 or 9/16, okay? Adjustable wrench, some fencing wire, 1/2 inch ratcheting wrench. You cannot do this with a socket wrench. The long kind of needle nose pliers with the angle. You'll also need a vice grips. You also need this part number 7144508. So right there you can see the spring where it's right there, where my tip of my finger is. That's where the spring is hooked on, and it goes down from there. Okay, you can't remove this bolt, so the only way to mount a new spring is to stretch the spring a little bit when you're trying to install it. The one I have broken is over here. Now I've done that other one twice. This one might be a little harder to get to. I can barely see the spring down there down below, but it's broken. I probably didn't need to do this, but I used my lock bar to hold this up just in case the hydraulics for some reason are not holding it. But I don't think there will be a problem, but I don't want to think about it. Oh, I love that. It's right there. This should be a cakewalk for this one. The middle one is a lot harder. So the first thing I got to do is disengage this rod from the handle, because that handle still holds this, and I need to be able to shift and move this piece around. Alright, I was able to show me, baby. There we go. Right there, all I did was just loosen up this nut. This rod right here was in that hole, and it just had it was a 1/2 inch nut, which I put down here. So you only need one wrench to get that off, but the arm moves a little bit. You got to get a good stroke on it. Otherwise, there is another nut piece on the back side of that you can grab that's permanent to that ball socket. You just need to be able to move this arm. Your main concern is actually the component that goes, you can see me levering this right now. That's the spot where the spring goes on. So all you actually have to do is remove the little bolt that holds this arm on. This arm pushes your interlock, so if you're trying to start the Bobcat, that's your interlock switch. Do not damage that. I damaged the one on my other side, and it was expensive and took forever to order, so I just put a zip tie and some washers, and that's how so that's not safe, right? Because that interlock, in theory, like if this thing was broken or whatever on this side, you wouldn't know it, the machine would start moving when you start it. So that's why you need those, but they're very expensive and hard to get. So I'm gonna pull this lever arm off here. It's just pivoting on a single bolt, but it's just a little hard to get to there. Alright guys, so on one side of this I have a ratcheting 1/2 inch wrench. Let's see, so that's on the nut, and then on the other side I have my Allen key there in the bolt, and then To hold the Allen key, I have my vice grip here just holding it so it can't move, and that's working really great. It's keeping it from rotating. As a side note, guys, do not drop hardware and tools down here. You'll be looking them forever, because back here when you drop it, it goes down behind the hydraulic, and I'm trying to show you what is back there, but I can't see this without my phone. But you see how much debris is down there? And you're gonna end up taking out this battery right here, and then potentially taking the bottom plate down off the machine, which is actually under the engine in the front compartment. And this back compartment is divided from the front compartment by a white, you see the white there between the blue pumps there? If you're trying to reach back there with your hands, I promise you, you're not gonna have good luck finding your stuff. You're gonna be needing new hardware. So it's good to have like a magnet or something handy, or just be ultra careful. This side feels easier to me than the middle one. The middle part, there's a lot more stuff for your hands to crash into there that doesn't give them enough room to properly grab. I felt like this one was relatively easier. I got this to where it was finger loose, and then I just spun it out the rest of the way with my fingertips. I'm gonna just take a magnet and just try to lock onto that nut, that bolt. Yeah, I got it. Good powerful magnet. So we have this side here, which you cannot take this bolt off with this component inside the Bobcat. Just remember how this goes in, and remember that this thing goes down and touches that safety interlock. See the marking? That's from touching the safety interlock when the thing is off. So this is the orientation of it, when that Allen key is going to go towards this outside little access door right here. Hopefully I'm going to show you guys a hack that I used on the other one that saves you having to pull the everything, the exhaust and this thing, and then pull these wheels off that belt over there, and then pushing the hydraulic pumps out. So if I can save you from that agony, I will. So I just spun this apart with my 9/16, which is the right size to take the bolts out for the access door, and then the same Allen key that was used to remove this Allen, this teeny tiny one, is also the one that removes that. And there's a sleeve. Look at that, there's a sleeve. Wear markings are minimal. Would you look at that? So you can see where it was touching, but obviously it pivots on that sleeve. I can see the bolt, it's right there. I might be able to get that out. Wow, so that did come right out. Looky there, all I needed was an extension, and this piece does have wear markings on it, interestingly. But yeah, it comes right out, easy to get to and everything. That's crazy. So I guess Bobcat actually wants you to pop these motors off, these hydraulic pumps off, to get to that inner one, because that was like a quick second. So the strategy on the opposite, in the middle side, is I took a piece of wire and I ran it down. Basically I installed the spring onto this lower arm, okay? Just imagine like this lower arm all being assembled, right? It's all put back together. Now I have a spring just hanging there. So then I take some fencing wire, or you can use mechanics wire, but here we go. Here's my fencing wire, and make a long piece of this, extend it down, and then on the new spring, probably lasted the same as the original, but if you bend this spring out just a tiny bit, you can get it on there. I think it compromises the spring, but let's face it, you're gonna spend 6 hours plus, or you can just do this job the quick way, and the next time you do it, you can do it again the same way. But all I did was just put a piece of wire in here, and then I just lower the whole assembly down, and then have a guy, which he's gonna stand up here and lower it down like that, which is gonna have that whole lever arm and the little pivot and everything, and it's gonna feed down in there like that. Or you feed the wire up from the bottom, and then the guy is gonna hold it here while you install that bottom bolt. And so all this is pre-assembled, and so all you're gonna be doing is assembling this right here to that plate, which is gonna be that little hole right there. And then once you have that done, you put this into position like that, and then you have room to, with the wire, let's see here, with the wire you pull up through here and then you open that spring up with the needle nose pliers and you pull on that wire, and it opens up that spring end just enough to pull it over that shaft, because it always breaks on the shaft of this main top bolt, which goes there. It does not break on the bottom. So I don't know if it's getting the vibration directly from the hydraulic pump. I'm not really sure why that top one, but I've never seen the bottom part break. It's always the top. Could be from, I was thinking originally it was from the stock install, but then, yeah, I don't know. We'll find out on this one, because this one has ease of install where you don't have to stretch the spring at all. So I'm hoping this spring will last longer, but obviously this was not stretched when it was installed and it still failed. So I think I might just put a little grease on those little pivots just to see. I want to see if that can help at all. All right, so what I ended up doing here, I still did the wire trick, but I actually fed this in from the side here, because you can't go in, the gap isn't big enough to go any of these areas behind this plate. So you go through this. Just trust me when I say, like, this little star thing will rotate this plate, and you can get that in position, and then you feed this, and you can see this is now suspended by my piece of wire. Yeah, I lost that Allen. The little small Allen fell down in there. Now I gotta go find it. Good luck, Eddie. Wow. Good luck to you, buddy. That's a very important piece too. You gotta have that. It's nowhere to be seen. It's all the way behind. Yep, so now the next thing I need to take the battery. So you just disconnect these two terminals, end here, and then take out this one bolt, and then the battery will come out. All right, guys, fortunately for me, this wasn't quite as nightmarish as it could have been, but you know, I was fiddling with this thing trying to get it in position on that star, and it angled the arm over and the piece fell down. So I had to take off this shroud right here, which goes over the muffler. You do not have to take out the nuts. You just loosen all of these, because all it is slots, see? So you have to force it up like that to get it off, and then sometimes you have to take the bolts out, two of the bolts out, one on each side, to get it to go back on. But once I had that off, I looked in here, lo and behold, there's my bolt. Right there, there's the bolt. So there's no way I would have found it, because I had my hands way down in there below everything, digging around in the dirt. So yeah, again, you know, you're gonna need one of these long magnets, and you really need one of these mirrors too, and a small flashlight that fits in little spaces like this. And then obviously I can just grab that bad boy out of there, and then I'll probably lose it again, but yeah, so careful with that. We have to take this top bolt out. It's very hard to get this piece past that star and also attach the bolt at the same time. All right, I got my wire reattached to the top of that spring. I'm just gonna take this bolt out and my sleeve, put them to the side. Now I should be able to wiggle this bad boy right into position using my mechanical arts of persuasion. There, now that's down in position. The arm should reach. And when it comes to stretching that spring, I'll stretch the spring with this wire. I'll pull up on it, and that'll be an easy angle. Once I pull up on it, I can just feed that bolt right in. So now it's time to install that one that I initially lost. Okay, I did find out, I think that washer goes on this side, because I can see those, focus, I can see the rings on the metal right here. So sorry, I'm having trouble. Yep, I can see the ring from the washer on this side, so that's where that goes.
Now what are you
Oh, this is cool. I lost my little bolt again trying to get it in there. Now I have to find it all over again. All right, I rescued my bolt for the second time. This time I disconnected the tank. I don't even know if I needed to do that, but it's got a strap up here that's got a bolt, a permanent carriage bolt in the side of the machine, and then it's got a one of these that goes into the floor of the machine to hold the strap in place. You can get a good amount of motion on that. Hopefully I'll be able to get it back in place here. I'll probably just wait until the thing is installed before I install that, because I'll probably drop this bolt again. It's very hard to get these things in here. Spaces are so compact. Allen wrench down in there. The Allen wrench was all the way wedged up against. If you see, there's a metal sort of hydraulic hose all the way back there where the tip of the flashlight is shining. That's where it was stuck. Barely could see the tip of it on the other side of that driver motor. That's a hydraulic driver motor right there. That this is pointed at, the main dirty part right there. So yeah, this is a headache, but I did get that nut started right there, and it's very, very awkward to get that nut on. It'd be easier with two people. One person could turn the Allen. But yeah, I got that started just barely with the tips of my middle and index finger. All right. Come on. This Allen is stuck now. There we go. All right. So now we have the arm in place that's able to pivot. So I can see with my wire, I can lift up on the spring now. So this could be a little tough, but it should be feasible. You want this to be dead center in that crotch. So when that thing comes up, the closest the spring could ever be to the point where it's attached is when that roller is inside this crotch. If it's to one side or the other, the reach is going to be less. So I'm just going to pull this wire. All right, so I did successfully. I routed the wire through this square black thing right here, inside here, and that provided a better angle. Make sure the wire is on the left of this bolt right here, because that helps the angle too. And then I used my electric driver to start it. So now the spring is actually on the threaded part, and I need the spring to be on the sleeve before I tighten this. So I could probably go a little tighter with it. And now I can take my wire off. That wire came off. This spring is stretched just a little bit right there. Look at that. Everything is in place. That just needs to be moved a little. Very hard to see, but I'm gonna get it off camera. Okay, I ended up using the pick that looks like this. I came in from the point side of the spring, so it's gonna be on your right. I went in through that and I twisted this pick, and I just kind of forced it over and went around like that and pulled, because that point on the tip grabbed it. And now it's on. Yeah, I tightened it the rest of the way with this ratchet, so I know it was right. So now this thing has proper return force. Right now, I got to reattach the rod that's not attached to the control handle, and then I got to put the battery and the hydraulic reservoir have to go back in. Spring action looks good on the drive. It's the same on both sides. I gotta get another spring so I can have a backup. Yep, feels good. My first spring I think broke after like 2 years. And then another spring that I installed broke after maybe a year. And so I had already ordered new springs, because I've just thought, now that I've replaced it twice, I'm just gonna have to keep replacing it. I don't know why. Something with the vibration, you know, the spring. It's just the location, the Bobcat. Hard to say. But it's not the end of the world that you'd have to do something like this periodically. I wish that, you know, it didn't break, but I guess I would say I've gotten better at fixing it. And this problem, it's not a rocket science fix. You don't need a lot of exceptional tools. I mean, I think the ratcheting combination wrench is pretty important. I don't know how you'd get by without that. Allen key is no big deal. You don't need an impact. You are going to need a flashlight for sure, but just losing parts down inside this Bobcat is not a fun ordeal. It's not a fun situation that you want to be in. And all I can say is, if you're going to do this, definitely do the mechanics wire trick. That's going to save you a lot of hassle and time. I don't really think it has to take that long, but when you first do it and you start getting into it, it's going to take a while. But if you do it the way that I'm demonstrating this video and you're good with your fingers, you'll be fine. A lot of the trouble is that when you insert your hand into this machine, you don't have enough room for your hand to do this, and so you're not turning the nut like that. You're twiddling it with your index and your middle finger, and then you know how clumsy those fingers are when you're trying to do this and capture that nut. You're spinning it like this. It's one of those things. If there was an easier way, I think somebody should do it. But I would say that the Allen, there's a little bit extra room on the Allen side. If you're doing the middle spring, which I had that middle spring break twice, and I just thought maybe it was that one that was getting more vibration than the other because of where it's located on the Bobcat. But now I broke the left spring broke, so they all break. But the middle one, I would say you have a little extra room to put an Allen. I might have even put an Allen, socket Allen on there with a little ratchet and trying to go back and forth, and I just held the nut. And when you can hold that nut, you can put a magnet there. There's a lot of different stuff. You can grab it with the vice grips, and then you could just turn that bolt, because you know that bolt's not going to fall. The nut's going to fall. So you could, in theory, you could turn that Allen around, or a socket Allen, and I think there's better access for a socket Allen or just a regular Allen key. And I may have even just did like 90 degrees at a time on an Allen key and reinsert and spin it. And I remember actually before that I dropped that Allen key. And then the other thing too is you can lose that little washer pretty easily, and then because the washer is all sloppy on that bolt, it's like, where does it go? It's just confusing where that washer is going to go when you put it back together, because it actually moves around a lot. It doesn't have the correct size hole in it for that spot on the machine. But you definitely want to be very careful not to break those little interlock sensors, because those safety interlock sensors are like $150, and they're also hard to get. So other than that, I don't know what to tell you guys, but this was very frustrating the first time it happened. It always happens on a job site while you're running the machine. And then you can still drive it, but it's scary. And like if you take your hand off the drive and you like step off the Bobcat and forget, it'll keep driving. And so it's super dangerous because it doesn't return to center, you know, which is the neutral position for the drive lever. And so it can endanger you or others. But if you're careful, I did do whole jobs with this Bobcat like that. It feels very, very dangerous, but you do what you got to do. I couldn't get the part. If I had the part, I would have stopped and repaired the Bobcat right then. But I didn't have the part, and so I just did the job. It was very scary the whole time. It took a lot of strength in the hand to push it to center. If you want to drive straight forward, if you just go where the lever wants to go, it's going to be diagonal, and then it's going to start driving to one side. And then if you take your hand off, like I said, it'll just keep driving. So be careful with that if you're going to do that. But this is one of those things, I guess, with this machine. You just have to get used to it. You just have to be ready to fix it when it breaks, and it's not the end of the world if you know how to do it. But I can tell you, when you're working on this machine and you can't find those little parts after you drop them down in there, you're going to have a bad time. So like I said, a magnet, on a long extendo magnet is going to be one of your best friends here. And then also just being very slow and methodical, putting your fingers in there and coming up with a strategy where you have a confident hold on it. It's just hard. You're overextended like this. You're horizontal. You're kind of falling over. You're kneeling on the ground. Comfort is not there. There's no positions where you can feel good on this project. And like I said, once that thing is dropped down in there, it's gone. I mean, you got to dig around in the dirt now, because dirt and wood debris and stuff gets down in there and causes all kinds of havoc. But if I could tell you, if you could subtract the dropping stuff inside this Bobcat, this is probably less than a 1 hour job. Somebody good, not like me, somebody better than me, maybe 30 minutes. I really think, really honest to God truth, I think 30 minutes. Because all you're doing is just taking, the spring's already broken. All you got to do is take the Allen. It's an Allen on one side and a nut on the other. It's a 1/2 inch nut. You got to disconnect the rod, so that's another nut. So you take the rod nut first, then you disconnect the Allen. That's the Allen and a nut that goes to it. And then once you disconnect that, the whole arm will come out. It's got a little roller on the side, and it's got the spring hooked to that. The part that has the roller is the part that has the spring hooked to it. So then all you do is install the spring, put your wire on there, and then feed it up or down, whatever way you're gonna go. And then tie that wire, or have your buddy hold that wire, and then insert the Allen and the nut, and then attach the spring, which is challenging, but more so just because of such a compact space. So you can see, very, very simple. I mean, literally, and the number of fasteners is very small. There are the 2 bolts that go to that little access door right there, but you're not talking about a huge job and a huge project. You're talking about a little 30-minute dealio. The whole problem is just the troubles that you will encounter trying to get access to the parts that you're working on. But if you ask me, I say that the one on the left side of the machine with the access door right next to it is easier because of that access door. It helps a lot. So best of luck out there, guys. I hope you don't have to do this, but if you have an MT100, I think you're probably going to have to do this pretty soon if you haven't done it already. So good luck out there, and have a great day.